So next fly we're gonna tie is a Olive Stimulator. This is one of my favorite flies to tie. It's fun, it's a challenge, but it's not too hard. A lot of people have a hard time tying stimulators, but honestly, once you get the actual techniques down, it's like tying an elk-hair caddis with a little extra and a tail. So I'm gonna use a size 12, 3x long, 3x long, natural bent hook from Dairiki, how you pronounce that. I'm also gonna use black UTC thread in 70. So you can see that right there real quick. The thread is right there. So start right behind the bend, about a gap length. Work your way all the way back to about right yonder, right at the barb. Cool. I'm exhausted. It's been a long day. So I'm gonna grab about a dozen and a half fibers from my bleached elk fur, and I'm gonna grab a little more than I need because I'm gonna thin out a lot of the short fibers, because with this fly you're gonna want to run, pinch out about that much. You're gonna want to run the elk hair all the way up the body to give it a nice, even but slightly tapered body. I did yard work yesterday and my allergies are killing me. Okay. What you're going to be left with is about a dozen fibers, and I'm going to have to restack these because I kind of got them all out of order while I was trying to weed out the short ones. There you go. Okay. So you don't want a huge tail. You only want about a gap length. Damn it, there I did it again. Okay. You only want about a little bit longer than a gap length on this hook. And you see how my threads kind of come undone a little bit? You can see the multiple fibers there. I'm going to spin that and you will tighten it back up. One more spin. You always want to have a little tight thread when you're doing a tail like this. So turn, pull tight, don't let it spin, but you want to let it flare out real nice. And that's how you get that good bushy tail. Now for binding all these down, I'm going to go around over them real quick, and this will help hold them down while I tie them off. You see what the hook eye is. I'm not going that far. About 2/3 up the body, and then tie them down, and then touch turns back, or you can just kind of, I'm just gonna do it like this here. Go back to the tail. And because this is olive, if I was gonna do this in orange, I'd use a silver or gold. But I'm gonna use the extra small copper wire. And other than the tail, from this point until you start doing the front of the stimulator, it's just like an elk hair caddis. And so I'm gonna lock that in and then start doing touch and turns all the way up to the hair. Then come in, pull it all up, curved scissors, and bind it down. Okay. And then bind down the tips. So come in right here. Now, we're gonna get a real thin piece of furnace hackle. As thin as you can get, depending on We're using a size 12 hook, but the gaps on these are a little bit smaller. I'm gonna use a size 16 hackle. Now this is one of the ones that I'm going to use for a dropper. Like I said when I was tying the Thunderhead video, I use a lot of my flies for droppers, and it's a more of a functionality thing. You know, I do much more nymph fishing than I do dry fly fishing. So I use a lot of droppers because if you ever had a fish come up and hit your indicator before, this will help you catch fish when that happens. So I'm using this Wapsi super fine dubbing in blue wing olive color. It's a real dark olive. And this is a great fly because it can actually imitate a number of things. It can imitate hoppers, it can imitate stoneflies, big caddises, and it's just a good attractor pattern. It doesn't look really like anything, but it has a little bit of everything. And don't worry about getting your body too tapered, too thin. I'm just gonna pull that out just a little bit. There we go. Because once your hackle goes on top of it, it's really not gonna matter. You will end up though using a lot of dubbing. And then right where you stop your elk hair, right there, you want to really put kind of like a little ball in there, a little extra ball, and that'll help hold your wing up when you finally put the wing in. And oh, I got a knot in my thread. There it is. That'll work. Okay. Now there's two ways to hackle these flies. I've seen them done many ways. Let me go ahead and post my thread up right here. So the only reason I tied off right there was because I'm going to use the rotary function on my vise to help me spin this really evenly. But there's two ways to hackle them. I've seen people hackle them where they do them really light like that. And then I've seen the way I do it, which I'll do it like that. If I'm going to fish a stimulator, to be fishing a stimulator to imitate a stonefly or a hopper, that's the way I'm going to hackle it. Just like that. It's very light. That's all it needs. But if I'm going to fish it for a dropper, it's going to have to hold a little extra weight on that skin, on the water, that film. So you want to get as much surface area as you can. So I'm going to hackle this thing like that. You can see much thicker. Come up and over. Get through the fibers. I've also seen people where they actually, when they hackle these, they hackle them from front to back. Going back this way, spinning the hackle back this way, and then they use the wire to actually hold the hackle in. You can try that, but you think about, you only have one turn over that hackle at the very end point where you cut it to hold it in. And if it slips out, you can actually end up with your hackle sticking off the back of your hook, which is something that's happened to me many times, and I don't like the feeling of knowing that my hackle's only being held in with just the copper or just the wire. And then don't worry your scissors, just spin it off. And then once it's finally held in with the wire, I'll go ahead and cut it. Save that for later. Okay, now it's time for the wing. Go ahead and grab your elk hair, weed out those pieces, folds over real nice, cool, that looks great right there. I'm gonna bind it down, then wrap forward, Wrap back. Clip them off. Now all those loose fibers right there, what you do is just, well, I got a couple that I need to cut, recut. Okay, right there. My dog's over there on the sofa, laying there. And then wrap back down. All the way to the eye, back up. Try to bond down as many of those fibers as you can. You're gonna cover this with dubbing in a second, so you really don't need to worry about it too much. If you can't really catch them, go ahead and trim them off a little bit more. If you ever has a razor blade, you can always cut them that way too. Sometimes that's a little bit easier, but then you risk cutting your thread. Use your thread also to try to really give yourself a body to that tapered look. Okay. So now for your grizzly. This is a grizzly, this is a cape. Yeah, this isn't a saddle. This is a saddle. For those of you who don't know, this is a saddle where you have a patch and you have these really long fibers. A cape is this color right here, which goes over the back of the chicken. This is a good point too if you ever wanted to reuse a hackle fiber that a waste hackle fiber that you cut off. You can use the tips for this because it really doesn't use very much. And then you're gonna dub it. No wire here. Unless you want to. I don't use a wire here because I've never really had these break off. Got hackle stuck in my fingers. I mean, dub stuck in my fingers. Okay. Okay. One whip finish. Hang it up. Pull this over. Maybe that was actually a 16. And then grab a half hitch tool, stick it on there. Spin 1 to 2 times. That'll push all those fibers back. 1, 2, 3. Cool. That's done. All you gotta do is varnish.